We've heard a lot about the housing crisis across our state. Sydney prices are exorbitant, making home ownership difficult. Interest rate increases have squeezed households with mortgages, and private rental costs are sky high due to record lows in the number of vacant properties. But an even greater crisis has occurred in a corner of the housing sector that receives little to no attention: public housing, or as it's referred to often now, social housing. Right now, there are more than 58,000 applicants on the wait list for social housing. Wait times have blown out to more than 10 years for a social housing property. This interminable wait for a home is largely due to two policy decisions under the previous LNP government. Firstly, they sold off the lucrative properties that they considered too extravagant for public housing, such as the Cirrus building in the Rocks. And then secondly, they made the conscious decision not to replace them with new stock to meet the demand. In last week's budget, Treasurer Moonkey made at least one very encouraging announcement: an investment of $5.1 billion for 6,200 new social housing properties and another 2,200 knockdown rebuilds of others. A total of 8,400 new social housing properties. Half of the 6,200 new properties will be reserved for women and children fleeing domestic violence. This announcement is a response to years of lobbying by our members and delegates in Homes New South Wales. They've met regularly with the Housing Minister, Rose Jackson, both before the election and since she was voted in. Our members have repeatedly brought to her attention the issues in public housing across the state, and it's their advocacy and the Minister's willingness to listen, unlike her predecessors, that have contributed to this tremendous win for PSA members and the public of New South Wales as a whole. The announcement, though, was silent on one important detail. While the properties will be social housing and owned by the New South Wales Government through the Land and Housing Corporation, we don't know who will be responsible for the tenancy. And here's why this is important. Currently, tenancies of public housing are performed either through Homes New South Wales' public housing or through community housing providers. Community housing providers are often not-for-profit co-ops or larger non-government organisations. The issue here is that community housing providers add on their own, often unachievable restrictions on the lease. And the results of these restrictions are that many tenants are unnecessarily evicted. Our members in Homes New South Wales tell us they've seen tenants evicted by these providers for matters as trivial as smoking on the property, the sort of condition that would never be enforced on a public housing property through Homes New South Wales or even on a private housing rental. And once evicted, these tenants return to the bottom of the wait list once again. The impact is that rather than dealing with the neediest people on the public housing wait list, community housing providers often deal with the easiest. So like so many other areas of service delivery, the New South Wales Government has a choice. It can deliver public social housing through experienced, highly skilled and the unbiased public sector, or simply write a cheque for the often compromised, the unaccountable and selective non-government organisations to do so. Our job as your union over the coming weeks and months will be to convince the government that just like so many areas of social service, such as out-of-home care, disability support and prisons, for social housing, it is the public sector that provides the best outcomes and offers the best value for money for the taxpayer. It's an argument that's important to make and easy to make.